Welcome back to the Film Optimist, everybody. So it's been a couple days since the world has gotten to see The Joker Part 2, Folie à Deux, or at least for the people that have seen it, because this movie was at one point projected to make like 120 million opening weekend and only made 40 after bad word of mouth. And I can't stop thinking about this movie because if you guys have seen my review, which if you haven't, go and check it out. It's the video before this one. I'll also link it at the end of this video. I talk about how I really loved the first two acts of the film and just hated the last act because it was such a disservice to the character and the fans. The movie felt by the end like it was just a troll, like it was designed to subvert your expectations and flip everything on its head, and that Todd Phillips wanted to subvert the expectations of all the diehard fans of both the Joker and the first film. And I just couldn't help but think how amazing this movie would have been if it stuck the landing. And look, I'm no professional screenwriter here, so I'm not gonna sit here and say I can make a movie from scratch. But if, Todd Phillips called me up and was like, listen, my main man, take a look at this script and let me know what you think. Do you think we should change anything? And I would essentially change almost the entirety of the third act, but leave the skeleton of it. And what I mean by that is this. Essentially, I would have kept the first two acts. I would have kept the musical numbers because I actually really like that. And I like the idea of Arthur suppressing the Joker so deep within him and kind of just being numb in jail, waiting his trial. And in falling in love with Harley Quinn, he learns to find himself again. I love movies when people have to find themselves when they're like either old and in retirement and they have to come out and like be the badass they once were. Or in Arthur's case, he is someone as iconic as the Joker, but he's suppressing it, which is not what the fans want going into a movie called Joker, but having that excitement of seeing him refine that purpose. I really like that idea. Like I said in my review, I love musicals, so I loved all the music in this. I loved the courtroom procedural part. I loved him having to have a defense against why he led towards violence at the end of the first film and why he felt that society failed him and pushed him into a corner where violence was the only way out. So what I would have essentially done is I would have had the same thing happen where it finally clicks in his head and the full Joker comes back out of him once he has the realization that his own mother was embarrassed over him and didn't think he would amount to anything. I thought that was really powerful in the movie, and I would have definitely kept that, but here's where I would have started making changes. I would have had Harley, being that she's on the outside and not inside, find somebody that is a huge supporter of Arthur being the Joker within the Gotham City Police Department or some of the staff at Arkham. And I would have had her manipulate him just like she was manipulating Arthur into becoming the Joker again. I would have had her manipulate one of those guards to sneak him a gun before his final court appearance. That guard would have then turned and gave it to Arthur at the very last possible second, maybe after going through, security and all the metal detection scanners. He would have gotten it all the way into the courtroom where he would have then awaited trial. He would have done what he was originally going to do and pulled a chair up to the jury. And he even says it in the movie, I was going to have an angry outburst rant against all of you and why you're all the problem. But then in the movie where he decides to say, no, it wasn't the Joker, it was me, I can't live up to this, yada, 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 pulling the rug out from everyone's feet, turning everything on its head, I would have had him go through with that angry rant. And at the very end of it, I would have had him get up, walk back over to his seat where he waits his verdict from the judge. And then I would have had the judge give a really scathing verdict, not only telling him that he deserves the death penalty, but he would have essentially just tore into him and told him that, his type of people don't deserve to be with the upper class. They don't deserve to belong. They don't deserve to be seen. He's a disgrace and an embarrassment. I would have had him just totally go off. The whole time, Arthur would have been laughing in his face. And at the very end of the verdict, he would have taken out the gun that he snuck in from the guard, and he would shoot the court officers in the room, which would lead all of the fans behind him to go up in an uproar like they just watched their favorite team in the Super Bowl score a game-winning touchdown. He would direct them to block the door so nobody else could get in. He would then turn, shoot the judge in the shoulder, walk up to him with the mallet, smash his brains in, then he would turn, look at Harvey Dent, and prior to all of this, I would have wrote Harvey Dent's character to be a little bit more darker and a little bit more of a dick and sinister. Still a good DA, but kind of a dick where Arthur kind of senses this like dark side in him. And I would have him essentially say like, there's more for you than death. And he would shoot him and kind of just incapacitate him but not kill him because he sees potential in him. Then I would have him fire off the last two bullets at the ceiling. One of his followers would be like, why did you do that? We're going to need those bullets. And he's going to sit down and say, there's no getting out of here. I'm not going to survive this, but my legacy will live on. And he would sit down and have the gun next to him, because essentially he doesn't want to go back to jail. So when the guards finally do get in, instead of just being arrested again, he would raise the gun at them so that they would shoot him and kill him, further establishing his legacy. Then I would have the guards actually break in, get past all of the Joker supporters, and right before they go to shoot him and he raises the gun at them, I would have had the same thing happen where the wall on the side of the courtroom would explode, sending everyone flying. The dust would settle, Arthur would get up just like he did in this version. He would grab Harley Quinn's arm, because in my version she wouldn't have walked out because he wouldn't have renounced himself as the Joker, and he would grab her hand and they would run out together. They would both get picked up by those supporters that found him in the original idea, and they'd be like, look, we have a safe house we're going to bring you to until everything, settles. We'll keep you safe. And then at this point, they're going to bring him back to whether it be a warehouse or a speakeasy or whatever the case may be, and there's just going to be hundreds of Joker supporters there just ready to lay down their life for him. And look, these aren't assassins and like smart military ops CIA people where they're really good at hiding from cops. And Arthur's going to know that. He's going to essentially be like, look, these people are going to find where we are any second. Then he's going to devise a plan to rig the place with explosives, but not set it off yet. Arthur is going to give this big, epic speech to all of his supporters that some are scared, some aren't, but regardless, he's going to give this speech about how enough is enough and his people not being seen has gone on for too long, and how they deserve more to life than being bullied and trying to dig their way out of poverty and debt, and that everybody deserves to be seen. He'd give this big, epic speech that would rally everyone and get everyone's blood fired up. At this point, Harley Quinn would kind of turn to him, and this is when she would reveal that she's kind of a fraud, and she's afraid now, and she was in love with a delusion, but now it's gone too far, and she doesn't want to risk her own life. He would then turn, laughing, and kill her, because, no one can make it out of this movie. And then, as you all know, at this point in the movie, he didn't have the makeup on. I would have him take the blood of the dead Harley Quinn, rub it onto his mouth to make that iconic smile and around his eyes. And then at this point, the GCPD and the military would bust in. It would be carnage, just everyone getting shot left and right, all of the Joker supporters shooting the cops shooting the Joker supporters. It would be an absolute bloodbath. And then at the very end, when everyone's almost dead and Arthur's the last man standing, I would have him say one funny joke about how finally he's seen and that he may die now, but his legacy will live on forever. And then he would blow the place up and kill everyone inside it with him. And as the dust settles, you see a little montage of like how awful like the city block is and everything and all the dead people. I would have one of the Joker followers, a really, really young Joker follower that is clearly very damaged and very mentally ill, come up to Arthur's dead body, take Arthur's blood, and smear it on his own face to make the iconic Joker smile with the blood itself. And then I would have him kind of scurry off into the smoke where he kind of just disappears, implying that, yes, maybe Arthur wasn't the Joker, but he is the inception, the idea behind the Joker that we all know and love that goes toe-to-toe with Batman. Arthur is what inspired that man. Therefore, we leave it at maybe that wasn't the true Harley Quinn, maybe that wasn't the true Joker, but we know that because of them and the limelight that Harley Quinn and the Joker were in during this movie of being on the news and giving all these interviews, they're going to inspire another couple to find each other that become the true Harley Quinn and Joker. And at this point, I would cut to a bunch of ambulances like showing up to the courthouse. And as they're taking people out of the rubble, you'd see Harvey Dent with his face all charred, getting loaded onto a stretcher and put into the back of an ambulance to not only set up the fact that you're going to get a future true version of the Joker and Harley Quinn, but this was also the origin story of Harvey Dent. And I would have ended it there. And then I would just look at Todd and be like, look, you wanted to tell a story about Arthur. You had a vision that he wasn't the true Joker and you wanted to stick with that. But at the end of the day, you still have to give the fans of the Joker the payoff that they're expecting going into this. This movie is literally designed to flip everything on its head, to subvert your expectations. But anybody that had a reasonable amount of expectations going into this, we're always going to be disappointed because Todd Phillips wanted to troll you guys. In my version, yes, maybe it wasn't the real Joker, but at least you get that carnage, you get that icon, you get the symbol that inspires the next Joker, that passes on the mantle. You would have gotten the carnage you wanted. You would have gotten the lower class versus upper class warfare that you kind of saw glimpses of in the riots in the first one, but you would have gotten that on a bigger, grander scale where there's actually like an all-out turf war. And I think that everybody would have been a lot happier and more forgiving of the first two acts. Me, myself, I love the first two acts. I know a lot of people didn't. But again, I think they would have been a lot more forgiving if the last act really stuck the landing, whereas in this just didn't. So yeah, guys, that's my ideas of what would have made this movie, again, stick the landing and work for a lot more people. I think this would have been a far superior version and had way more of a payoff where everybody would have left having the feeling of satisfaction. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm not a professional writer here. This is just something that I would have liked to see, and I'm curious what all of you would have liked to see. Would you have enjoyed my idea of how this movie should have ended, or do you think that it's too far-fetched and silly? Do you have your own ideas of how this movie should have ended? I'm not opening a conversation about how you would have taken the movie in an entirely different direction. I'm just saying, for me personally, I did not like the ending, and I think a better ending would have made this movie better. So if any of you have any better ideas of how the ending, just the ending, not the whole movie, the ending should have been, let's talk about it down below. I would love to have a conversation about it. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't checked out my review for this movie, it's, like I said, the video before this one. Check it out. Let's talk about it there. Give me a like, maybe a subscribe if you like this and you want to see more content like this. Anyway, guys, I hope you had a great weekend, and I hope you have a great week ahead. And as always, I'll catch you next time.